are reaching out to you with another edition of In Conversation brought to you by De Livera. And given the country situation, we thought it's best that we do our interviews online for the time being, as we can fulfill our responsibilities as citizens to our utmost capacity and follow guidelines accordingly. So today I have with me someone very special. She is a lawyer, an activist, and of course, the former chairperson of the National Child Protection Authority. Her stellar service is not only recognized and renowned in Sri Lanka, but it has won the attention and love from overseas as well. She's a recipient of the International Woman of Courage Award, presented by the United States Department of State to women with courage, resourcefulness, and of course, leadership. Marini De Livera, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
There's so much to talk about, and especially with the work you've done woven around child protection. But I want to, before we dive in, I would like to backtrack a bit and hear a little bit about your childhood and what really inspired you to get into social service and legal studies.
Yes, I was the youngest of 6 children, and there was a big gap between me and the one before me. So I used to spend a lot of time in the law chambers of my dad, who was a constitutional lawyer. And during those days, we did not have internet, but there was a huge shelf full of Encyclopedia Britannica. So I used to copy the different flags of the countries and try to identify them. And I also, when I was a little older, I read up about people like Abraham Lincoln and the biographies of Winston Churchill and lots of historic events. And also my mother did a lot of charity around the place where we lived. That was Castle Street in Colombo 8. And she used to visit the people who lived on either side of the railway track. So there were little children whose houses went underwater when it rained. And I used to ask her, why are we whole and why are we living in a proper house, and why have those little children to suffer for no fault of their own? And of course, my mom couldn't answer that question. She used to just smile and say, oh, we have to be very kind and good to them. And then the other thing I noticed was it was long before the advent of the law on prevention of domestic violence. But when people came and spoke to my mom about family violence, she would listen to the story patiently and have a lot of empathy, sympathize with them and say, oh, I'm always available. Don't worry. If you need anything or you need someone to talk to me, please, I'm always there. So later on, when I learned at law school about these concepts about violence, not only it is violence when it happens outside the gate of your house, but within the 4 walls also. If there is emotional abuse, if there is cultural violence, demanding of dowry, and if there is harassment of any form or oppression, then it's violent. Or economic violence, where a woman is not allowed to work, although she has been educated. So it fitted beautifully. You know, I sailed into that new role because I had that foundation when I was very young.
Definitely. And you also stand by the fact that it's important to have a holistic experience when it comes to the career of your choice, especially in a conventional education system where we have to give up on our hobbies. We have to kind of stop doing what we're doing just so we can focus on studies and specify into a career path. But in your opinion, how important is it to be multifaceted and to have a holistic approach?
Yes, especially in professions such as law. As a child, I was very fond of drawing and painting and splashing with paints and drawing cartoons and caricatures of people, political satire. I was very interested in that kind of thing. And I also was into speech and drama and public speaking. I did all the exams, and I was fond of public and creating little booklets illustrated by me. So all of that came in very useful when I studied human rights law. And I thought, oh, this is horrible. Oh, in our country, it's only theory. There's no practice. There's a huge gap between theory and practice. How can I take this message to the masses? How can I educate the people in the different village communities about their rights, about the laws in the country? How can I teach children how to protect themselves from the monsters that are around them? them, only through cartoons and through drama. So I created my own mascot, which is a huge blue bird known as Bindu bird. And when I was at NCPA, we had hired this double-decker bus, and the actors would go on the top in their colorful costumes, and a papara band played alongside them on the same bus. And the children used to come running to the village marketplace to watch these plays. And we used to perform on different issues like narcotics, sending children to orphanages, the evils of the moms going to the Middle East. So we used to pick a particular area and focus on that and build our own play. And it was like forum theater, because there was a lot of audience involvement, and they also participated, and then there was discussion and debate, and then each one got a pamphlet of what they were going to do. Then the youth groups in the area came forward and said, oh, we also like to do this kind of play. So I said, next time we won't be here, so if there's an issue, you create a play in your temple grounds or in a playground. You create a play, and you have a discussion on that. That's a better way of sorting things out than going to court and it taking years and years. So it
Definitely.
has been
And I think
fantastic.
art is a very it's the most significant form of
Powerful
expression.
tool,
Yes,
yes.
I think it's nice to
Yeah.
see you have incorporated that as well. And considering the stellar work you've done over the years, when you look back, are there any significant, memorable, I mean, unforgettable moments in your career that you remember?
Yes, yes, there are two. When I was a chairperson of the National Child Protection Authority, being a chairperson is obviously a desk job. You have a plush office and you sit there, and then you decide whom you want to talk to, and that's all. But I studied the act thoroughly, the NCP Act thoroughly, and it was a very powerful act. And one of the things was to monitor the court cases relating to child abuse. So I went to all these courthouses and I sat there and I watched what was going wrong. And I found that the child victim did not have a powerful lawyer. It was a policeman who was, who didn't know the law and who couldn't be bothered. It was just another case for him. Whereas the perpetrator had a huge team of lawyers, very powerful, very vocal, very loud, and who could grab the attention of the judge. And things, and like the documents, the victim did not have anyone to give any advice about the documents, what went wrong, what was clogging the system. So they had to come to court over and over again and testify, and it was very painful for the victim. And they did not have a shelter in Colombo to stay. When they came to the children's court, they did not have a place, they did not have anyone to help, they did not have legal aid. Going to court is very expensive, it's only for the rich. So these poor people did not have any assistance or any support, and I realized. And as a policy maker, that was very useful, that knowledge. And to know that each time they bring a child forward to court saying that this child is in need of care and protection, they just dump that child into an orphanage. And then that child doesn't gel with the others. It's a very regimented lifestyle where about 50, 60 children are looked after by a grumpy old matron who can't get a job anywhere. And these are like little prisons. They were horrible. I visited most of them in different parts of the country, and the situation there was awful. And I did little art camps with those children there, and I slowly gave my business card to them, and I said, if there is anything, you just write back. When they were going to school, they had written the letters and asked their friends to post. I had a huge pile of letters saying that they were beaten up unless they did all the work before going to school. Then when they went to school, they were punished for coming late, and they had to wash huge cauldrons and wash the floor and terrible things. That they were very unhappy, and no one was kind to them, no one smiled at them, no one asked what their dreams were. So I got all this information from these children, and I was determined, like in other countries, like in other civilized countries all over the world, that we should put an end to orphanages. And I have started that campaign, and I do a lot of advocacy and lobbying for that. Yes.
That is amazing. And also, I recall there's one specific court case that you have casually mentioned about a foster mother
Yes.
and the birth mother. I would like to hear a little bit
Yes.
more on that.
Yes. This there was a lady who went to a Middle East agency where they were sending women abroad, and she came with a newly born baby, 3 or 4 days old, and she said, oh, as I arranged earlier, I want to go to the Middle East, but I don't want to take this child. I don't know what to do with the child. So the lady who was working in the agency called her mom and said, do you think you can take over this child, because this woman says she's going to do something to the child? So the mother took her over, and for 3 years the child was very happy, sent her to an international school. She had the best of everything, and she had another child to play with, this lady's child. And suddenly after 3 years, the natural mother made an application to court saying that this a foster mother kidnapped her child, but in the child's birth certificate it was a foster father's name and the address, and the child did not know the natural mother. Only the foster one was clinging on to the foster mother. Natural mother wanted to sell the child, wanted to traffic the child to some unknown person, and that's why she had been promised a huge sum for the child. That's why she wanted the child after 3 years. So the judge could not decide this and had put this little child into an orphanage. This child was only English and Tamil speaking, had been put into a single orphanage where the child could not understand anything. So when we checked at that orphanage, the child was not eating at all, was kicking everybody, was extremely aggressive. So I filed a motion and I went to court immediately after that, and I explained to the judge the situation. And I said, in the Children's and Young Persons Ordinance, it says fit person. And you can see that this foster mother, unlike the natural mother, has all the attributes of being a fit person. She has the economic prowess, she has been loving towards the child, and the child is clinging on to her. That means she loves the child, and she has other children to keep the child company, and she's going to write something in the child's name when the child is 18. So all that is there, as opposed to the natural mother who abandoned the child, did not communicate, did not check whether the child alive or not. But suddenly, after 3 years, surfaces and demanding the child back when the child does not know. I said, Your Honor, this is not the best interest of the child. And the judge allowed the foster mother to take over the child. And this was the first time that the foster care came into our jurisprudence, because foster care or family-based care was something alien. Either a child was with the parents or the child went under the Department of Probation to an orphanage. We never heard of a member of the community taking over a child. But when we were long ago, when we were very closely knit community, we understood the fact that the child belongs to the community. And if something goes wrong with the child, it affects the whole community. When a child's mother passed away or got sick or was disabled, it was the mother's sister or the mother's best friend or the grandmother, if she was young enough, who looked after. So always the neighbors were very alert about what happened to children in their neighborhood, that we did not see this kind of child abuse and violence against children those days. So what we have to try is to bring those back, those community values back, so that children are safe and happy.
Definitely. And definitely you highlighted on the orphanage ecosystem having to undergo a transformation that is much needed. And apart from that, are there any specific issues within your work tenure that you saw that children are facing? What are the most key pressing issues that Sri Lankan children are facing at the moment?
Most of all, there's a lot of emphasis on exams and jobs. And so because of that, there's a lot of stress on the children, and they're always made to compete and show that they are better than the other person. But proper human values are not inculcated in them, and this kind of pushing them, this kind of pressure is very unhealthy for the growth and development of the child. And also I find in this computer and mobile age that adults and others don't have time, even the teachers don't have time for the children need to open up. It's okay for a child to come and say, oh, I did this, and for the parents to explain why he or she should not do that again. They should not pounce on the child. And parents and teachers are extremely violent. There's a lot of corporal punishment. You beat up children, you lock them up. But there is something called positive discipline, where you explain to the child, where you have empathy for the child, and you don't. Here in Sri Lanka, children are chattels. The parents think they own the children. They don't see them as right holders. they also have freedom of expression. They should participate in decisions relating to them, whether they are going to change a school or relating to a place where they are going to live or what they are going to have for their meals. You have to have democracy within the four walls as well. But children are always, dictated to and always told what to do. And very rarely do parents listen to what they have to say and encourage them to put forward and express their ideas. Sometimes it might be a very creative idea, but parents think that, they're not good enough, that parents own them, they are not at the same level as the parents. Only thing children do not have is the experience. Otherwise, they are very intelligent, and they are very creative. So they should be given that outlet. And that is not there. That's why the cause of all these problems. And they go for solace to the computer. That's why all these cyber issues surface. They go to something very artificial because the people around them don't have time for them and cannot be bothered with them.
Definitely, and there's a spectrum of issues that needs to be addressed in Sri Lanka, and it's an amalgamation of, it's a collective responsibility, whether it be the government, the community responsibility, sensationalized
and
media.
also parenting skills, yeah.
Yes, so I think it's a collective responsibility. So from your end, how do you think as a community we can creatively address issues that are challenging the security of children?
Yes, I'm very disappointed with the media. They only highlight the violations of child rights and child abuse cases. They do not reflect or show the solutions. So the media can play a huge role. By media, I don't mean the conventional media. What I said before, street theater, social media, like what you're engaging in, and other forms of media, where even people gathering together and saying, oh, this is a huge issue in our village, what shall we do? That kind of communication and dissemination of information is very important. And always through art and through songs, and we have lots of talented people in this country. Poetry, we can work wonders. In Africa, they have done that a lot, using their traditional instruments. They convey a message to the community, to the leaders, to the politicians, but we are very lackadaisical. We are armchair critics. We blame the government for everything, and we sit back and we do nothing. But we also have a responsibility. We are members of a community, and we also have a responsibility. A democracy is where for the people, by the people, of the people. So we also have a duty. We have a responsibility. So it's an omission on our part if we say, oh, children are being abused, what can we do? We only discuss on Facebook and say, oh, terrible thing, and we don't do anything about it. We have to proactively work to alleviate their suffering.
Definitely, I think we should all have our own individual discipline to drive to that objective as well.
Initiatives and
yeah, definitely. So I would like to know what's in store for the future and what's in the pipeline for you, Marini, right now.
Rights cases that I'm appearing in, and I think we should have good creative judicial decisions on some of the issues that are plaguing our society. So I draw a lot of inspiration from the Indian Supreme Court and their judicial creativity. I've been reading a lot of their judgments, and I think the courts can play a huge role. So I'm taking some cases to court, and also I'm updating the legal textbook written by my late father. It was last updated in 1995, and it's a textbook for the universities in Sri Lanka, and also some of the universities abroad, famous universities, have it for comparative literacy. I have this little shelter where the probation department brings teenage girls in need of care and protection to be trained before they are sent out to the world at the age of 18. So they are very, very talented people. They can draw, they can sing, they can dance. So with them, while transforming them into exemplary Sri Lankan citizens, I'm also getting their help to do creative stuff like writing little booklets with a common character who solves problems, a child character who solves the problems affecting her people in her little village and things like that. So I'm in the process of doing that public education through a lot of art, dancing and drama.
Amazing. And for all the youngsters out there, being it women, young women, and the youth who are aspiring to assume roles in leadership and to create positive social changes, what would you like to tell them? What advice would you like to give them?
Yes, all of us have some sort of skill, some sort of passion, some sort of talent, and we should pursue it relentlessly. And in the words of the great Winston Churchill, I would say there'll be a lot of obstacles, lot of hurdles, but never, 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 never give up. You have to have the grit. If you look at the life stories of all the famous people, what all of them have in common is that four-letter word, grit. They never, never, never gave up.
Thank you so much, Marie, for your time. It was a pleasure having a conversation with you. We wish you all the very best with all your future endeavors.
Thank you, Hirushi. It was an absolute delight talking to you. Thank you.